2,200 people buried underneath rubble, Health Ministry. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza says an estimated 2,200 people, including 1,250 children, are buried underneath the rubble of destroyed buildings. Blinken raises concerns about civilians caught in Gaza fighting. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday and pressed the case for preventing escalation and protecting civilians, but to no avail. It is very important that when it comes to the protection of civilians who are caught in the crossfire of Hamas making, that everything be done to protect them, he said as he stood before reporters in Tel Aviv. Netanyahu said in a statement after the meeting that Israel will refuse any temporary ceasefire proposals made in the absence of the release of hostages taken in Hamas' October 7 attack on Israel. On Wednesday, President Joe Biden called for a pause in warfare to negotiate for the release of hostages, which include Americans. The U.S. has been flying unarmed MQ-9 Reaper drones over Gaza to help recover hostages, Pentagon officials confirmed. There are 241 hostages, according to the IDF. Hassan Nasrallah, a leader of the Iran-backed Hezbollah militant group aligned against Israel, made no promises to back off in the group's ongoing skirmishes with Israeli forces along Israel's northern border. In a highly anticipated speech, Nasrallah said the extent of Hezbollah's involvement in the war depends on how Israel behaves. All options are laid out and we can adopt any at any point of time, he said. He was deliberate in saying Hamas' attack on October 7 was 100% Palestinians in terms of execution and that Hamas kept it a secret. And he urged an end to the war. But he also committed to continuing attacks along Israel's northern boundary. Israel Defense Forces spokesperson Daniel Hagari said it was ready for anything launched by Hezbollah. An exodus from Gaza continued amid Israeli forces encircling of Gaza City and the continuation of a ground incursion throughout the north. 100 U.S. citizens and their family members left Gaza through the Rafah border crossing Thursday, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said. More than 360 Americans were on a list of those who would be allowed to pass through the boundary Friday, according to the Gaza Crossings and Borders Authority. Palestinian workers who crossed into Israel each day from Gaza are apparently being shut out after Netanyahu's office said it was severing all contact with the enclave. Some workers who were stranded in Israel walked back into Gaza on Friday, with no prospects for their immediate return. The home they find will not be the same. More than 1.4 million people have been displaced in Gaza, where health officials say at least 9,200 have been killed. Israel says more than 1,400 have been killed. 105 medical facilities deliberately targeted by Israeli forces, Health Ministry. Here is some more information provided by Health Ministry spokesperson Ashraf Al-Qudra at a press briefing. 150 paramedics have been killed since October 7. 27 ambulance vehicles have been totally destroyed, including 2 carrying the convoy of victims headed for Rafah on Friday. 105 medical facilities have been deliberately targeted, 16 of which are now out of service. 32 primary care medical facilities are out of service, either due to lack of fuel or their total destruction. Mostly women and children killed in Israeli school attack, Health Ministry. In his latest update from Gaza, Health Ministry spokesperson Ashraf Al-Qudra says at least 15 people were killed and another 54 were wounded in the Israeli bombing of Al-Fakura school. Most of the victims were women and children sitting in the schoolyard who were torn to pieces. Their bones and flesh were collected in plastic bags, he said. At least 231 people were killed in Israeli attacks in the last 24 hours alone, Al-Qudra said. Erdogan says Netanyahu no longer someone we can talk to. The Turkish president says he is breaking off contact with the Israeli prime minister due to Israel's actions in Gaza. Netanyahu is no longer someone we can talk to. We have written him off, Turkish media quoted Recep Tayyip Erdogan as saying. 2 more mosques destroyed. The Israeli army has bombed 2 mosques in southern Gaza City in the last few hours, an Anadolu correspondent has reported. The attacks destroyed the Ali bin Abi Talib and the Al-Istijaba mosques in the Al-Sabra neighborhood. Argentinians protest in support of Palestinians in Gaza. Large protests in solidarity with Palestinians took place on Friday in cities around the world. One of them was in Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, where hundreds of people gathered outside the Congress to show their support for the people of Gaza. Holding banners and chanting slogans, the demonstrators also demanded a humanitarian ceasefire in the besieged enclave. Demonstrators have come together in solidarity with Palestinians in Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires. Argentina has condemned the bombing of Jabalia refugee camp but also showed support for the release of captives, as some of its citizens are still being held by Hamas. Argentina will hold a presidential election runoff on November 19. The candidates have expressed their support for Israel, and in fact Sergio Massa, who is also the economy minister, has said he is planning to designate Hamas as a terrorist organization. But many of the protesters who gathered at the Congress say they stand with Palestinians and their right for self-determination. What we have to defend is the Palestinian right to self-determination that has been marginalized for decades by ethnic cleansing and by an apartheid imposed by the State of Israel, Nicolas Del Cano, a politician from the Socialist Workers' Party, told Al Jazeera. That's why we need to all get together to demand a ceasefire now. Keep watching us for more videos. Subscribe and follow us. Click the like button and let me know your views in the comments section. Thank you and have a nice day.